Thank you for accepting the invite. You were telling me this morning this is the first event you've been to since COVID. So that's, well, thank you.
Yeah, look, firstly, good to be here. Thank you for the invite. I usually don't go to many conferences, so this is my first conference, maybe I think 4.5 years, 5 years. So when Joao invited me, I couldn't say no.
Well, I'm glad you accepted a few weeks after the announcement as well. It's the first time you're talking about the deal.
Thank you.
Before we get into the deal, because, I mean, again, everyone knows the headline. Everyone knows it's a big gigawatt portfolio in several countries across Asia. Let's talk about how it all started, because there's quite a few details of your story that people might not know, including nearly bankruptcy of AirTrunk. Yeah. So first, how did you go from being an 18-year-old in Bangladesh, moving into Australia? What was the motivation to go further south?
Look, I was born in Bangladesh. I think you're familiar with this country. Pretty simple. My parents wanted me to have a better life, so they made sacrifice, sent me to Australia back in 1997, when I was 18-year-old, just to have a better education, better life, and since then, Australia has become my home.
Well, it's a nice place to live. It's good weather. We're talking there's not a lot of people as well,
yes.
And it's quite a booming country in a lot of different sectors. But then when you got into the early 2010s, what was the thing that sparked the idea of AirTrunk? What did you see in the market?
Yeah, look, if you look at the cloud journey, public cloud, that is, it's really started early 2010. Like, I think AWS started in 2007. Microsoft, I think around about 2010, 2011, GCP, Google Cloud around that time as well. I've been working in data center industry at that time. It shows how old I am. Look, as an entrepreneur, like, you look for opportunities. I've called this blue ocean strategy moment. As you know, historically, the data center industry didn't exist. So it used to be part of the telecommunication companies, part of the IT services companies. So there wasn't any industry data center. And those data centers were not scalable, not efficient, not sustainable, and used to take a long time to build. So, I saw, like, how I was genuinely big believer in cloud. I genuinely believe that enterprises will move to the cloud. And cloud is, it doesn't sit in the sky. It sits in a big shed, like a data center. You aggregate the demand from thousands of customers, and you offer from a data center. And the industry was inefficient, and I saw the opportunity to build, build fast, cost efficient, energy efficient, and scalable as well.
Yeah, as you were saying, the cloud doesn't sit in the clouds. It reminded me of Kamala Harris explaining cloud computing and saying they sit in the cloud.
I think that lost her the election, right?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't understand data centers. But I guess an interesting aspect that I came across AirTrunk, which I had no idea, was that you nearly failed. You nearly went bankrupt. What happened there? How close were you to actually failing?
Yeah, look, Bertrand is here, so he was involved early days of financing. Look, the industry evolved quite rapidly. Like, now is every infrastructure investor, every real estate investor, they want to invest in data center. Like every financial institution, every bank wants to fund data center. Even like 2016. I was fortunate enough to have a very large commitment from a big public cloud customer, which was massive 17 megawatt deal to build 2 data centers in Sydney and Melbourne, and I had to deploy about 400 million Australian dollar to do that, and I had a customer contract, $500 million. I thought, this is great. Like, you got this customer contract, long-term contract, you should be able to raise money. But I think it shows, like, even that time, 2016, no one was willing to back data center, and even like a startup company like AirTrunk's. So, it was pretty challenging moment, because I signed big contract and promised the customer, look, I can build fast, I can deliver the capacity in late 2017. Of course, as you know, you have to do a lot of upfront investment. You have to buy land. You have to invest in plant and equipment, all those sort of stuff. And there wasn't any money. So I had to dip into my superannuation fund. To a point, I had to get insolvency advice 2016. And I was pretty fortunate. After 2 months, February 2017, managed to raise the funding to build out the first 2 data centers in Sydney and Melbourne.
When you say there was no money, now there's just so much cash all around.
It is. I think it's really, it's just amazing to see, how the industry has evolved in a very short period of time. I couldn't get a meeting with a lot of the investors, and I think some of them here as well, and couldn't get a date from a lot of the banks. So now is, I think now is more well understood, the sector, and I think, and some of the work you're doing, Zhao, through your business, through your company as well, how educating, how data center is is the essential infrastructure, it's as important as, you have electricity connection or you have the toll road.
Out of curiosity, if AirTrunk had failed, what would be non-AirTrunk Robin Khuda be doing today?
My wife would have been divorced me, maybe. That's the first thing.
Probably cheaper.
The second thing is, look, I was young that time, and I had a rather successful career in another data center business that time. Look, I could always go back and get a job working for someone, but I was pretty adamant, I was hustler. I hustled and just keep fighting, and I think the result of it AirTrunk.
Yeah, it ended quite well.
Yes.
I mean, this is not the end. This is a new beginning. It's a new chapter.
It is. Look, it's actually funny enough. Sorry, I'm just going a bit off track. The customer who backed me that time, and we do a lot of business with them. We're the largest supplier in Asia. They're with us 8 markets, and actually they made a comment the last time. They said, look, because of people like AirTrunk, you can see this data center getting built faster, the efficient, etc. We were able to set the benchmark for the industry, and everyone is getting benefited from it. Other entrepreneurs, they're starting the business, they're building infrastructure. The customer getting the benefit as well. You can buy, the data center getting built efficiently, and the end customers, they're the beneficiary of that.
Okay. And if we talk about building up to the present, building the current 24 billion Australian US dollars portfolio value, what were the key strategic decisions that you had to make? What was the hardest decision as well that you had to make throughout the journey?
I don't think those hard decisions. Look, for us, so there is 2 aspects. So one is, since day one, our value proposition was very simple. It's scale, speed, reliability, efficiency, and sustainability. Those are the 5 things. If you look at some of our old presentation, it says exactly the same, and it hasn't been changed. So we've been very focused since day one. This is the challenge our customer has. They want speed, they want scale, they want efficiency, reliable data centers. So we were solving the customer issues. So in that sense, that hasn't changed. And that's been key to our success. We're very focused on, we don't even have 10 customers as of today. We were focusing on hyperscalers. We wanted to focus on Asia. We're still in Asia. So it's very disciplined. This is the things we do, we want to do, and we do very well. We do over and over the same things, and we get better. So that's been key to our success. The focus on Asia, Asia is untapped continent. Of course, US is big data center market, Europe. So I think just having the presence in Asia before a lot of other operators, I think that was very important. And the third one is, when I started AirTrunk, from day one, my ethos was like, there's only two things I care about. One is customer, one is the employees. Because if you do these two things well, like if you look after your employee, look after your customer, you're going to create a lot of value for your shareholders. And we have done this for the last 9 years. So I think those are the reasons, why, this is such a big business, because, we've been super successful. Customer backed us in multiple markets. We built up pretty big platform across Asia, and investor wanted to buy this platform because that's the only way you can have such a big footprint in Asia.
Is it safe to say you have no ambitions to go beyond Asia?
No, we, day one, focus on Asia. It hasn't changed.
Okay.
Yep.
And if we look into the current portfolio, we're going to talk about the future portfolio as well.
Yep.
But you are now you're in a mix of very established markets and more emerging markets. So you've got
Yep.
Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, Japan. Did I miss any?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Yep.
How do you balance going to a place like Singapore or Tokyo versus going to Malaysia?
Look, I think if you look at our customers, so firstly, all our growth, all those markets, the reason we're in this market, it's because customer wanted us to be there. So we never ever entered into a market without having customer commitment. So I think that's the difference. Like, we never built speculatively ever, like at AirTrunk. Like, when you enter into a market, of course, we look at the supply demand economics of this market, and we decide whether we're going to build 100 megawatt or we're going to build 300 megawatt. So that's the way we look at things. So so all our growth so far, like Singapore, Hong Kong, etc., like, it's driven by customers. But if you look at just sort of high-level Asian market, like I'm talking about ex-China, what are the hubs, major hub for connectivity, subsea cable, major hub for data center? It's Australia, it's Singapore. Singapore, of course, had challenge, the land availability, etc. That's why we went to Malaysia, because that's Singapore plus. That's sort of taken us to Malaysia. So we see this as the overflow from Singapore. Japan is another big market, like, we invested heavily. And I think the logical one is India, like, it's a huge market. Then, of course, you have market like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand. You have to follow population, like, you can't ignore 300 million population in Indonesia, or 100 million population in Korea or other markets.
So what is the timeline to go into those markets? India, Indonesia, South Korea? Share a bit more. And how much capital?
Yeah, look, for us, where we are now, like post Blackstone acquisition, capital is not the issue for us. For us is like, where we can see the next round of growth. Like, you'll see us, we're going to continue to do more in our existing market, because quite frankly, there is so much growth in Japan, Malaysia, Australia, etc. For logical market for us is, it's India. Like, I think you'll probably see us in near future, and market like Korea and Indonesia. I think those are I would probably say the next three market for us. Timing wise, look, it could be 3 months or it could be 12 months.
But still very soon. 12 months
it is
to blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And then, so what will you do to balance? So the Iron Man is coming, so there's a tremendous amount of money coming. There's a lot of capital going to be deployed across the world. Like Digital Breach talks about $4 trillion. You look at Goldman Sachs, they report $1 trillion.
Yep.
Whatever you look, it's trillions and trillions and trillions. What's going to be AirTrunk's role in all that? And how are you going to build all the portfolio together?
Yeah, look, of course, I think there is a significant demand. Like, we haven't even scratched the surface. Like, we talk about the AI. It's still pretty early days of AI. Like, when you talk to our customers, like, all the AI deployment is basically inference, basically, enhancing their existing offerings through their existing availability zones. So, of course, every industry will need AI. Like, it's not just one industry, every single industry. So it just keep aggregating the demand. Like, there would be huge demand. Then on top of that, AI training. Like, that's not even in Asia. Like, it's only in some of the deployment in North America. But I think over time, like, that will get rolled out, distributed AI training across Asia. So all these things will need huge investment, like, just sort of, if you look at the high level, like, between Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, and Apple, their CapEx program, like next 12 months is, I think, roughly about 250 billion US dollar. So, if you sort of look forward like next 5-10 years, like there would be trillions of dollars of investment. So, I think that investment will create opportunity for a lot of operator. Like, AirTrunk not going to win everything. There would be opportunities for a lot of operator. From our point of view, like, it comes down to like the market, drives the great, the financial outcome. Because end of the day, like we're deploying capital, we need to get return. So the markets will give us the best return. I think that's where we're going to deploy more capital.
Bit of a more umbrella question. So when you look at the market right now, there's a lot of new platforms coming into markets, both in Asia, Europe, US. There's a lot of new logos coming out. How do you see the state of the market? It can be from a global perspective, from an Asia-Pacific perspective, because we're going through this consolidation of M&As and people buying others. Then we kind of run out of things to buy. Now there's a lot of things coming up, so there'll be a next wave of consolidation. What's your view?
It is a look again, my personal view. I think, of course, there are some very credible operator, like they will continue to do well, and there is, I think, a lot of people has FOMO, like they missed out. Everyone, I think when you look at outside, like you look at data center industry growing like 20-30% year on year, etc. But I think once you sort of start looking at like what's driving, it's really 4 or 5 customers. Like if you're not doing business with Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, and maybe ByteDance, like you're not going to get that level of success. So to get the success, like I'm just reflecting my AirTrunk journey. It's not just simple as you buying a land and you're building a data center, because you are dealing with customers. They build, operate more data center than anyone else. Like you're basically selling ice to the Eskimo. So and they're very demanding. Like they have, they go through rigorous process, etc. So I think it's not just simple as you deploying capital, building a data center, because the customer also, they're much more sophisticated. Like when I did my first deal with my first customer versus I look at them now, like they're very different beasts. Like maybe if I knew it would be this hard, maybe I wouldn't be doing setting up another data center business. So look, not everyone would be successful. Like my personal view, like because there is only so much demand, and customer also wants to make sure who is in the best place to build and operate for them as well. So I think they have a lot of options, but they're going to back the operator who has the track record to execute for them.
Just to pick up, and then I'll open to the audience. To pick up on what you said about the 5 customers that really cement everything that the data center industry does. As much as of an opportunity there is right now, could they also hinder success if they change their strategy, relying on just a handful of logos? Could that hurt?
No, look, because these customers, they're operating at a global scale. Like I think everyone knows this customer. They also build and operate a lot of data centers themselves, and the growth is so much. Look, they're not going to be able to build and operate everything themselves. Like we had some customers, they used to tell us like they want to have 80% self-build, 20% leasing. After like 3 years, like still 80% leasing, 20% build. And Asia is quite unique because every market in Asia is very different. It's very different to like if you're in America, like yes, there is a 48 state or 50 state. The rules and regulation is pretty much the same. Whereas when you're in Asia, Singapore is very different to Hong Kong. Hong Kong very different to Tokyo. Tokyo very different to Osaka. Sydney very different too. So it creates extra level of complexities, and they want capacity fast. Like they can't wait 5 years for the build team to figure out how to build this data center. So I think that plays a big part. Why Asia is, I think we're always going to see much more higher leasing in Asia than self-build.
Interesting. I've got one more question for you, but I'm going to open to the audience because I'm sure there'll be people here that have a lot of questions, but maybe we'll get through 2. I don't know if there's a microphone going around. Oh, there is. Anyone has got a question for Robin? No? Oh, wow.
Must have been very convincing.
I guess we've talked about it. No, there's one at the back. There we go. You know, with this light, you can't also see much.
Hi, this is Udit from CBRE. My question is more around, like, everyone knows the hyperscalers make up, like, let's say 80% of the take-up. What are your thoughts on, like, AI companies taking up space, and also, like, the emergence of GPU as a service? Like, will that take up in the next few years or not?
Yeah, I think, like, if you look at, like, companies like CoreWave, I think they're valued $25 billion US. This company even didn't exist 3 years ago. So, you know, I met the CEO of CoreWave. Like, you know, they went from 0 to, I think they're doing like over 2 billion EBITDA a year. Like, you know, so look, I think to answer your question is yes. I think that's gonna because the AI industry is growing so rapidly. There is a lot of investment going into the sector as well. So I think we're gonna see. You know, there is a lot of, you know, especially the GPU as a service, those type of operator. I think there is quite a lot of them will pop up over time.
There's no shortage, and they just raised 650 million as well.
That's right.
So
yes.
Keep raising.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions? One more question. There we go.
Hi, Robin. Nice to meet you. My name is Eric Hadi from Nusantara Data Center Academy. So I have one question. How do you see the challenge in terms of sustainability in multi-complex data center environment right now? What's happening in the world? And how do you see the challenge in talent for the data center globally?
That's a very good question. So, social license to operate, it's becoming very, very important. It's not just, you know, you need to have renewable itself, like, you know, before we used to talk about, like, we're using X amount of power, you know, we need to have a renewable, but now it's more than renewable. So now it's energy, it's water, it's carbon footprint, scope 3, like, we haven't even touched the surface. Like, there is a significant investment, innovation need to happen, scope 3, and sort of, you know, and the last thing is, like, you know, like, you look at, I'll use Korea as an example. Like, you know, you have people, they don't want data center because there is a perception issue, because the data center is, you know, sucking up all the water, so it's not good for the environment, etc. Some of those not true, but there is the perception, unfortunately, and then how they translate into politician, because, you know, they care about the votes, so they coming up with policies that necessarily doesn't work for a data center. So we're going to see more and more those across every countries, like, you know, and so I think that's the challenge for data center operator like us, like, you know, how we can, you know, work with the communities, how we can address those challenges, you know, just beyond the energy, but across different things.
There's a lot of education that needs to happen outside of the data center space.
100%.
Well.
Yes.
That's something we've seen. I'm being told we need to go, but I'm going to ask one last question, because you're also part of the Khuda Family Foundation.
Yes.
First, what does the foundation do, and what do you see as the role of successful entrepreneurs in philanthropic work?
Yeah, look, so I set up the foundation about 4.5 years ago, mainly focusing on STEM program for women. It's very close to my heart, because as an organization, AirTrunk, you know, we promote diversity. It's actually one of our KPIs for our sustainability linked loan, diversity and also the gender pay gap, because these are the two things hindering our industry. Like, you know, if you look at tech industry or data center industry, like, you know, it's very male dominated. And
you can tell from the room.
You can tell from the room, actually. I think as an industry, we need to do more, because diversity is good. It's not just the male or female, it's the diversity goes beyond, like, you know, it's the age, it's the different culture, etc. So the more diverse we are, I think it creates more innovation. It creates much better conversation with everyone. So I, you know, as a running AirTrunk, I see the challenge. Like, we see the challenge. It's a big challenge. Like, especially when you go to market like Japan, like, it's very challenging, like, to hire women. So as a personally, I do have 2 young daughters. So I've set up this foundation, working with different institutions to invest in STEM program for women at very early days. Because if we don't invest early on, by the time they go to high school, etc., they already decided they want to be doctor or engineer or something else. But if we need to invest early on, so that you create this big pipeline of young women talent coming into our industry, and they're only going to enhance our industry and create a lot of value for our industry. So that's one of the key objectives of the Khuda Foundation. Next year, I'll announcing STEM program with the University of Sydney, which would be the largest STEM program for women in Australia. So I'm very excited to do that. And as an entrepreneur, look, yes, I went through a hard time, but I've done well. I think it's the time I need to give something back to the community. So I think I encourage everyone to do that, because the more we invest, it's actually, you get more back over time.
And karma always comes back.
So it is.
Do things as well.
Important.
Robin Khuda, founder and CEO of AirTrunk, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope to see you in London at the International Forum. And that's going to be in about 8-9 months. So hopefully you're going to have open India, Indonesia, and have a lot of new markets to talk about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.